My fellow Americans, I am proud to accept the Democratic nomination for President of the United... What? Wrong speech. Got it. Friends, I'm here today to tell you that unfortunately, it does not look like my campaign has much of a path forward anymore. At this point, it is clear that I can be more effective going back to my life as a comedian and activist. And so I'm announcing that as of right now, I'm suspending my campaign for President of the United States. This has been the journey of a lifetime. The fact that so many of you believe in my message, said you've been waiting for a candidate like me, and that I have your vote for president means the world. I can't explain that feeling. It's an incredible honor. And to the trolls, your comments actually did make me think. I'm kidding, get a life. So many of you said this campaign made you have hope for our politics again. And many of you told me this was the first time you ever donated to a political campaign in your life. Well, I will never forget that as long as I'm alive. To the people who volunteered to help our campaign, when we all know how little free time we have, and shared with me your personal struggles, I am so touched that you trusted me enough to share a bit of your life. To the thousands of you in every state in our nation who donated your hard-earned money, all I can say is thank you so much. I hope I did you proud. I know I worked as hard as I could because I took your faith in me as my oath to you to do all I could to make a difference. Thank you to my incredible staff and volunteers who worked so hard on this campaign. And thank you to my amazing partner, Carmel, who supported me every step of the way, even though she knew I would be almost constantly gone. Now that I think about it, she may have just wanted me out of the house. I'm proud that we outlasted campaigns with millions of dollars, backed by very powerful political machines. This campaign was 100% grassroots, powered by you. We did not hold one single fundraiser event where we charged admission, not once. All of our events were open to the public. Turns out that's not the best way to raise money. But we are still ending now the 15th highest fundraising active Democratic campaign out of hundreds of candidates. The money just jumps way up once you get to the top tier, and we didn't have the resources to reach enough people. Most of you won't even see this speech. Even if you're following me, it won't show up in your algorithms because big tech has decided for us which of our friends we get to hear from, which is one reason they must be regulated. As a side note, when the free flow of information is controlled, societies cannot be free. Thank you so much to the local TV, radio, newspapers, online outlets, and countless podcasts, plus few national TV shows that did give us a voice. You helped amplify a different message at a time when we desperately need to consider all serious options. And a word to the major news networks, late-night talk shows, and podcasts with game-changing reach that invited other candidates but would not have me on. Not cool. Seriously though, I do urge you moving forward to not be so close-minded, especially when it comes to politics, for that is at the detriment of the country. Nearly everyone with a large audience is heat seekers these days. But change does not often come from ideas we have already heard. Still, we fought every day like we were in that top tier. It was an honor to speak at events alongside the major candidates, to be able to talk directly with voters, making a case for a new kind of politics, and the importance of taking strategy into account in how we take on the disloyal orange monster in the most important election of our lives. We campaigned all over the country, countless places, for over 7 months. But I also wanted to run a different kind of campaign, one that really listens and gives voice to issues and ideas not often discussed. There were so many amazing moments and lessons learned that the first draft of this speech was 30 minutes long. Nobody would watch that, obviously, so I'm sharing all the details on my podcast in the next few days. But just to give you a few highlights, I met with people tackling the refugee crisis, racial injustice, criminal justice reform. I spent a day in state prison with people incarcerated for decades. I got to serve and speak with homeless people in Tampa, Des Moines, and LA, but also attended events focused on out-of-the-box ways to end the homelessness epidemic. We visited family farms and pay-what-you-can restaurants, men living at sober homes and women fighting against domestic and sexual violence. Met with organizations tackling chronic women's poverty, and we started a petition for a constitutional amendment for a woman's right to choose. I hung with our troops in Camp Pendleton, what an honor that was, and with our vets at the Veterans Freedom Center in Cedar Rapids, also a huge honor. And I was proud to march alongside the LGBTQ community in Springfield, Missouri, and party with them in West Hollywood Pride. A meeting with a transgender 15-year-old working with the Human Rights Commission was humbling and inspiring, because when I was 15, I didn't do jack. But nothing humanizes the struggle of transgender people as much as becoming friends with Charlie Smith, our senior field coordinator. Thank you, Charlie, for being patient with me, sometimes messing up your pronouns. I think I finally got it down. I went to Puerto Rico on the 2-year anniversary of Hurricane Maria, and definitely did not throw paper towels at our fellow citizens. And even though it is surrounded by big water, very hard to get there. We were heading there during a storm, got there no problem, and had an incredible week volunteering and learning about their challenges. A beautiful theme I kept finding all over our country is that despite people's extreme hardships, their love for America does not diminish. But to be a society we can be proud of, we need to protect our most vulnerable. I met with a school teacher who lost a very young student to gun violence, and parents who fear sending their children to school. That is obviously unacceptable. But I also met with gun owners who agree. That gives me hope. We got to attend Close the Camps protests on both coasts, but I was most heartened to discover that even some people in the middle of the country, nowhere near our border, care so much about kids being separated from their parents that it is their #1 issue. I got to talk with union workers in Iowa and was proud to stand on the picket line in Chicago with the teachers who were striking not for themselves, but for better education for their students. And they won. I got arrested in D.C. for a planned act of civil disobedience on the Capitol steps, protesting corruption in our government, demanding we protect our elections and right to vote, and once and for all get money out of politics with a sweeping anti-corruption bill. Because we won't be able to tackle the many crises we face if we don't do that first. This was the hallmark issue of my campaign, because the root cause, I'll say it again, of all our problems is the stranglehold of special interests on our government. It's the reason we don't do what the vast majority of us want done. If we simply fix that, we can finally start really tackling the gun crisis, climate crisis, healthcare crisis, stagnant wages, and so much more that make it so difficult for us to thrive, for some reason, in the richest nation on earth. If we fix this, the solutions to all will flow so much easier, and we will be able to take our democracy back. But we can't tackle any of this if we don't have a planet to breathe on, just FYI. So let's just commit ourselves to solving this problem at a much faster pace. Again, because we cannot breathe on Mars. I thought that was obvious to people. Meeting people all over this country has been so incredible. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me. And despite all the challenges I've now seen up close, what's clear is that our country is strong. Canvassing with local politicians, meeting with state reps, debating other candidates, speaking to hundreds at a time, or having lunch with voters one-on-one, meeting people at state fairs, holding rallies, or speaking in barns and backyards to small gatherings of Americans, I was struck over and over again by how much people truly care. And I now know that despite all of the unfortunate darkness that has been stirred up and reignited by this existential danger of a president, that there are plenty of people who are actual patriots to country, not party, who are ready to fight. And so many of whom are already fighting and winning. It gave me so much optimism for our future. Do not listen to those whose language divides us. And never trust anyone who implies that our problems can be blamed on any race, religion, gender, or background. That's just so obviously dumb. We are all exactly equal and must be treated as such. And in the end, we all want the exact same things. The ability to succeed in our lives, provide for our families, and relax after a long day's work. Those are just facts. And even though facts are on the ropes lately, they still exist. I hope whoever gets the nomination is someone who can bring us together to be a nation that we can all be proud once more to call home. We started this campaign because, as I've said, Trump is not a politician, he's a heckler. And to beat a heckler, you need a comedian. Well, I never got to go head-to-head against him, but it turns out my premise was right. Because of the violations of our Constitution he committed in his demands of the president of Ukraine, Trump was just impeached and is now awaiting trial in the Senate. And in case you didn't know, 8 months ago, the president of Ukraine was a comedian. So a comedian did beat Trump. It just wasn't me. I don't think I ever said which comedian would do it. Whatever the result of this trial, we are finally holding this self-absorbed, lawless, disloyal president to account. And that too makes this feel like the right time to bow out of this race. A huge part of our goal was accomplished. This president has been weakened. There is still a hard fight ahead to beat this guy, and I will of course remain dedicated to making sure that happens. But maybe after like a week-long bender, I could use a drink. And maybe like a joint or two. But no matter who gets the nomination, we all must fully support the nominee. Obviously, in life we must stand up for our values, but we also must compromise when necessary. Otherwise we just lose. And it's obviously better to win by a little. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, because the perfect candidate is dropping out in this video, you know what I'm saying? As to what I'm doing next, well, I wish we could have gone further, of course, but being that we didn't, I'm excited to go back to my life as a comedian. Running for president is super intense, so I'm looking forward to letting loose again, hitting the road with a new stand-up tour, and focusing more on making you laugh. And I definitely will not be shaving for a while. I think I might grow a beard like Al Gore and Hillary did after they lost. I will also be recommitting myself to my podcast Last Week on Earth, so we can still have a weekly conversation about all the craziness going on in the world and in our politics, and laugh at it all. If you want to be part of the Brain Trust, then join me. Our campaign has ended, but it's cool that in America, despite all the forces tilting the system, you can still run for office, even the highest office in the land, and just with heart, hard work, and integrity, can build a movement, however big or small, and speak truth to power, and fight for what is right. I think that's a victory for us all, even though I totally lost. It has been the honor of a lifetime. To quote the wise spiritual leader, Jerry Springer, take care of yourself and each other.